Final score: Aldershot Town 3, Wrexham 0. And well, that's not a good way for your unbeaten run to end. And there's a lot to discuss in that performance. I think we'd all agree. Right. Let's start at the beginning. We made one change in the side that beat Woking on Tuesday. Dan Jarvis, who had played well, made way for James Horsfield. I can understand that change, though. I did assume that Jay Harris would come in if he was fit, because that midfield has got a lot of ability in it, the midfield who played against Woking. But in an away game, you might maybe want something a bit more robust so people can't play through the middle of us. So I understood totally the logic of that. I didn't think Horsfield did that badly, actually, in the sense of anchoring the midfield. However, other circumstances, shall we say, counted against us. Let me put this into context. There are no excuses for that defeat. There are reasons and explanations, but it doesn't excuse the fact that Wrexham hugely underperformed and Aldershot hugely overperformed. They were very impressive, I thought. I mean, the context to begin with, I want to draw attention to that Halifax scoreless draw a while ago, where everybody saw it differently from me. I was pleased with it and everyone else was disappointed. I think I can draw that back to this. The reason I was pleased was because I'd seen Halifax play other games leading up to it and thought they'd played very well, and I thought they looked like a good side. They hadn't lost in a while. They'd had some good results and some very good performances, and I thought they replicated that against us. I thought they played well, we played well. Admittedly, they've suffered since. This is the opposite, though. This was the context I had, was having had a look at Aldershot's performances lately. I thought this really was a game we ought to go and dominate and win. Aldershot have been struggling lately. On Tuesday they were poor when they got beaten comfortably by Solihull Moors, and well, they had two players suspended out of that match and an injury to add to an already enormous injury list. So as a result, Aldershot's team had a bit of a makeshift look about it. Their back four was a midfielder at right back, then an actual centre back, then a centre back making his debut, and then a left back who can play left back but prefers to play right back or right wing. That wasn't the most encouraging start for them, and I thought we'd impose ourselves. And I guess this is the key thing, isn't it? For the first 15 minutes, we did. The first 15 minutes looked exactly like I expected the game to look. We were on top, we controlled midfield, Aldershot was struggling to get into our half, and we were making chances. And, well, here's one key reason why we lost. We didn't take our chances. When we reflect back, you'll realise we had enough chances to score a handful of goals, but the key ones were these early ones. From the very start, the Orangus was getting into good positions. He managed to get himself round the back of both sides of the fence within the first couple of minutes, but nothing came of that. And then the opportunities started to come in. Horsfield swinging in a cross, Kwame Thomas getting up well to win it 6 yards out, but he couldn't direct his header properly and Walker saved it easily. And that was just a precursor to two glorious chances which should have led to goals, really. Firstly, and this just showed, I think, the weakness of Aldershot's makeshift defence. A chance was came and Dibble basically really middled a long kick, an enormous clearance by him that bounced on the edge of Aldershot's area. I mean, you know, people get excited when they see the ball kicked a long way, but that's what a centre-back wants, a straight ball down the middle, and yet neither centre-back was there. And Angus, astonishingly, found himself running in completely clear on goal. Okay, it's not the easiest chances in some ways, those, because obviously the ball's bouncing high in front of him. He's got to be able to make the right contact early when it comes down into his reach. But still, Walker rightly had come off his line to try and narrow the angle and get there, and hadn't got there. And if Angus gets a decent contact on his header and puts it over the keeper, it's 1-0. But he didn't get enough of a contact, and Walker stretched up and made a good save, tipping it over the bar. A heck of a big chance. And the next big chance came on the quarter hour. It was a free kick given to Wrexham right on the goal line, just outside the box, a short corner, if you will. Young stood up, swept it into the far post. French was unmarked 6 yards out and planted a powerful header wide. He knew it was a poor miss. He immediately had his head in his hands. He was unmarked. He was close in. He made strong contact. He should have scored. So Wrexham ought to have been, if not in the comfort zone, certainly ahead by that point. And there was actually another chance before we went behind. Carrington swinging the ball into the box, Thomas flicking the ball on well, Hall from 6 yards out, for a tightish angle to be fair, and stretching for it, managed to steer it in on target. Walker could save it comfortably. And the thing is, it was just too easy to make chances. A long boot through the middle by the keeper, cross from deep getting flicked on, and then having a wing back unmarked coming in at the far post who, if he'd arrived a fraction of a second before, would have scored probably. It was too easy. Maybe it was too easy because we had a lapse, but it was a horrible lapse, and here's another key reason why we lost. Goals, as we said on Tuesday, change matches. Goals which are really horrible can have a massive psychological effect, and it was a huge turning point in the 26th minute when Aldershot took the lead, and then sadly it was an error by Christian Dibble. Cross from Whittingham was poor. He hit it from very deep. It was right up Dan Dibble's throat. He jumped, dropped it, and Joel Newble could tap it into an empty net. Now, there were some extenuating circumstances in that Tyler French jumped in front of his keeper. Might have put him off a little bit. But sadly, it's just one of those things that happen. Does this make Dibble a bad goalkeeper? No. Goalkeepers make mistakes. He put it behind him and actually had a very good game from that point onwards. But sadly, that mistake seemed to have a big effect on Wrexham's mentality and confidence. We had a good chance soon afterwards, which we didn't take. And after that, basically, we just faded out of the half completely. And it also seemed to have an effect on Aldershot's confidence. Maybe they came into it knowing they were up for a tough ride. Certainly the commentators on the stream from Aldershot were pretty startled by it and kept saying how shocked they were to see Aldershot beating Wrexham, never mind by the end, well beating Wrexham. But they seemed to gain confidence and they improved. But that was that key moment 3 minutes after the goal. It was good work first by Kwame Thomas holding her up on the right-hand side. He laid it back to Hall Johnson. He fed it to the edge of the area. Angus back to goal, laid her off nicely. And Jordan Davis was on the edge of the box with a lot of time to set himself and hit it with that great left foot of his. And he pulled it wide to the right bottom corner. It is getting quite frustrating for Thomas, I think, now. I mean, to be honest, he's got a wonderful strike on him, but he's had so many opportunities on the edge of the area, he just can't get that goal. Maybe he's just trying a bit too hard for the perfect strike. These are National League keepers. Maybe he just needs to keep drilling them on target and they'll start going in. But then, like I said, Aldershot were more confident. The chances dried up for Wrexham and Aldershot started to make opportunities of their own. A lovely first-time ball by Rees, who had a good game in midfield, into the right channel, sent Candy away, 15 yards out. He drove it in, and Dibble had to get down to parry it away. There was then another moment when Dibble was needed, a horrible moment for Fika Kelleher, a long ball over the top. Ricky Miller, here's another reason for you. Miller, as we all know, is a predatory penalty area striker. For some bizarre reason, Aldershot have played him on the right wing since they brought him in. This was his first game through the middle, and he did really well. Kelleher was trying to run the ball out for a goal kick. Miller chased him, dispossessed him as the ball was about to cross the line. You might argue he fouled him, but it was persistent play by Miller, and the referee gave him the benefit of the doubt. It was then great feat by Miller, because as Carrington came up behind him, he managed to just shimmy past him and drill a powerful shot from very close in, but from a tight angle. Dibble essentially just made himself big and let it hit his body and spin behind for the corner. Wrexham did have a decent looking opportunity with 6 minutes of the half left. It was a corner which was swept in by Record, a nasty ball then, which was half cleared. Horsfield found himself in acres of space on the edge of the area. The defence were all in a 6-yard box. He had time, but the pitch was a bit slippery and he slipped. The ball actually went past him, and actually Candy with his pace set up a breakdown to right, which was only halted by a sliding challenge by Rees Hall Johnson. I wouldn't mind seeing it again. It looked like a wonderful tackle to me, but he got booked for the challenge. I've got to say, if it was a foul, it was probably a necessary case of taking one for the team, because Candy was flying away. And Wrexham had another chance in added time, but this time Record had been booked as well. And again, it was maybe a harsh one, simply because Whittingham went in on him very hard. He did win the ball, but I think this was an excessive force style challenge and should have been given as a foul. It wasn't. Record went back in and won it back. The referee viewed it as a retaliation challenge. It was certainly a robust tackle back. Well, I would also say that he also came out with the ball, and he could have argued, well, they both made, tackles on the edge of legality. If I let one go, to let the other go. But Record was booked. So anyway, in added time, Wrexham did have one last moment. Thomas putting the ball into the box, and Kelleher arriving on the edge of the area, blasted a shot which was blocked by a defender. Wrexham shouted for handball, it wasn't given, and then a driven cross from the left hand side was poked behind for a corner. So half time, 1-0. Poor first half after a good 15 minutes to start off, and you thought, right, well, this is what they need now. 15 minutes of Dean Keats putting them straight. That may well have happened, but a stroke of fortune helped Aldershot out and gave them the breathing space they needed. Second minute of the half, Wrexham bringing it on themselves by failing to clear a ball into the edge of the area. Nouble on the left-hand side, cut inside, hit a shot which was powerful but speculative. It took a huge deflection and completely left Dibble helpless, and it was 2-0. And again, Wrexham looked depressed. Again, they had one chance soon afterwards, admittedly a 30-yard free kick by Luke Young. Typically, Young made good contact with it, trying to blast it inside the right-hand post. Walker did well, though, to get across and hold on to it. And then Aldershot started again to play with the confidence that their increased lead gave them. A nice ball down the right channel by Rees again. Found Candy again, and from 18 yards out, he tried to hit it early and was unable to hit the target. There was further danger when Miller did brilliantly with a fabulous surge and shot from 25 yards. Dibble denying him with an excellent save. It was flying inside the right corner, the right post, about halfway up, and Dibble did ever so well to get his fingertips to it and push it on the post. But it was only a temporary reprieve because the corner came in, it was half cleared, played back to Nouble in the right channel. Nouble, emboldened by his 2 goals, just danced through Wrexham's defence superbly and pulled it into the goalmouth. Anderson tapped it into an empty net, and Wrexham were 3-0 down. It could have got worse. Nouble wanted to go for his hat-trick, cut him from the left and hit another shot, which Dibble saved pretty comfortably. And that was actually it from Aldershot, because the last 18 minutes, well, Wrexham made bold changes, went essentially to, well, a sort of hybrid 4-2-4 or 4-2-3-1, but still committed Record down the line as if he was a wing-back, took chances and tried to pull themselves back into the game. Now, I've got to be careful how I assess this part of the match. I think Aldershot, knowing they got the 3-goal lead, also knew they could now settle back in and didn't have to come at us. So that conditions as part of the match. I don't want to try and claim that Wrexham had a strong finish. Well, we did, but I don't want to make out that somehow we were great, because we weren't. Having said that, I must say we carved out a lot of good chances in the closing stages, and I'm not completely stretching the realms of possibilities to say we could have got ourselves back into it. If we got a goal with about 10 minutes left, well, we definitely did create enough opportunities to make something of it, which again shows what a missed opportunity this is. Aldershot were admirable, their work rate was outstanding, they were sharp going forwards once they got their confidence after that first goal, but their defence needed to be tested more. In the last 18 minutes we did test them, and yeah, we should have got goals in that period and we should have done it sooner. Changes that were made, well, firstly, Durrell and Jarvis came on for the last 25 minutes. Horsfield and Hall Johnson came off, and we switched to a sort of 4-2-3-1 with Jarvis on the right hand side. We made further changes when Ponticelli came on for Jordan Davis, and by this point, it was very bold. Our midfield pivot, double pivot, was Young and Durrell. So obviously Durrell's going to be getting up the pitch as much as he can. Durrell and Jarvis did well, actually. Jarvis in particular, and was involved in a lot of good work. First, getting the ball on the right, making a nice little run and spreading it to the left to Record, and then following his pass in, so that when Record popped it back inside to him, he was able to play a beautiful first time little poked ball to send Dior Angus in on goal. Angus hit it first time, and didn't make good contact. Easy save for the keeper. And this would be a pattern which began with Angus's header early on and would really be prominent in the closing stages. Angus getting into great positions but not being able to capitalise. Soon afterwards, Durrell standing up a good diagonal over to the left-hand side. Angus cutting in nicely and hitting a shot which lacked power and direction, and again was a comfortable save for Walker. And then another opportunity within a minute of that one, and a massive opportunity. The ball knocked long, Thomas nodded it down well. Jarvis from the edge of the area, like he did against Woking, just smashed a beautiful strike. This time the keeper diving to his right made a fine save, but there was no way he could hold on to it. He pushed it back into the goalmouth. Angus had an open goal and put it over. Really disappointing from him. A goal then might just have caused a little bit of panic in Aldershot's makeshift defence, because Wrexham, like I said, started making more chances. A free kick into the box, Kelleher knocking the ball down nicely, Record getting onto it 15 yards out and hitting a powerful shot, aiming for the top left corner, putting it just wide. Jarvis then did well, beating his man and smashing in from the edge of the area a powerful shot which hit a Wrexham player and ricocheted away. Thomas flicking the ball on again, Jarvis running into the box right hand side. It really looked like the left back Killian Columby had fouled him in the box. Referee gave a corner. And then in the final minute of the 90, another really close thing. A corner was cleared, came back out to Durrell, who smashed a hell of a shot from 25 yards, swerving and dipping. Walker thrust his arm up, couldn't make contact. The ball thumped against a bar, which shook spectacularly and dropped, span up in the air, fell back down. Walker did absolutely superbly to spring back up from the ground and get there ahead of Angus and punch it clear. And then as they fell, they landed on Kwame Thomas, who was hurt and needed a good spell of treatment because Wrexham had used all their subs. He was limping very heavily. I hope he's okay. He did go back on and play the injury time and won one good header. And I wasn't following the ball. I was hoping the camera would stay to see how he landed. He looked to be limping a bit afterwards. Let's hope he's okay for Tuesday. Games, of course, coming thick and fast. Wrexham did actually have another chance from that corner, even though they were down to 10 men with Thomas having been treated. Record swept it into the box. It was helped on to the left-hand side of the area. Durrell whipped in a lovely angled cross at the far post. And again, there was French getting up with a clean header from fairly close range, but too close to the keeper who held it well. And Wrexham had lost 3-0. Performances. Well, poor Dibble. I just think we need to not overreact about this. He's done a good job coming in for Rob Lainton, and he did a good job after his mistake, and that shows real character to step up after an error and actually perform. But it was a poor mistake for the first goal. We can't ignore that, sadly. Across the back three weren't too bad. I mean, like I'm saying about reasons for the defeat, I mean, it's got to be said, we let in an individual error and a deflection. That's not necessarily saying that we've defended terribly badly. The back three weren't too bad. French showed some terrific pace, actually. A couple of times sprinting with Candy and Newble. They're quick, and he was able to keep pace with them. That was impressive. Did some decent defensive work as well. Missed those two opportunities, obviously. Kelleher, again, was solid at the back. And Carrington, again, was sound. He had a couple of funny passing moments, again, like at Woking. I think this time the pitch might have been responsible for it. The wing-backs, Hall Johnson and Record, weren't able to have the impacts that they often do. I wouldn't say that was necessarily purely down to them as much as the team in general malfunctioning, but they weren't as effective as they can be. In midfield, Young showed a lot of endeavour and energy without, apart from the free kick, really threatening much in terms of shooting or passing forwards. I thought also was tidy enough in the holding position, and maybe was sacrificed partly simply because we needed to get an attacking player on. But he didn't do anything outstanding either, I suppose it has to be said. Jordan Davis grew into the game a bit. He was quite quiet in the first half. Did play some nice passes in the second. And then up front, well, actually, in a quiet way, I think Kwame Thomas had quite a good game. He won quite a lot of headers against the centre-backs, held the ball up pretty well, but only had that one very early sniff of goal. So that's frustrating. but he didn't have the worst game, I thought. Diorangus, well, I mean, it depends how you want to judge this. He got into great positions, and that's promising, and that's something that he's brought for us. But his finishing was off today, sadly, and he really ought to have scored at least one. And so that would be something that, of course, will frustrate him massively. The subs, Ponchal didn't have enough time really to make much impact. Durrell did well and was lively, and like I said, had a terrific shot, had a good cross, played like he had something to prove. And Jarvis did very well. Jarvis was key in Wrexham suddenly looking dangerous in the closing stages. In fact, and I know I'm in danger of looking a little sarcastic in doing this, it's not my intention, but I usually pick a man of the match, and I think it's Jarvis. He got 25 minutes in and was more consistently threatening, I think, than anybody else. So, yeah, but it wasn't a happy performance. Now, there's no need for us to panic. Teams lose games. You only have to get in the top 7 to get a playoff place, and we are in good form. We've got some nice looking home games coming up, but this next one, Hartlepool, is key, of course, because they are a promotion contender. So Tuesday feels like a big game just to get back on the horse. It'll be interesting to see if Dean Keats decides that this team, or most of it, should get a chance to rectify matters, especially when the bench did well. It'll be interesting to see if any players like Harris or Vassell can get back to fitness soon. But yeah, no need to panic. But this was, I've got to say, a painful missed opportunity, I think, more than anything else. With the final score of Aldershot Town 3, Wrexham 0, I'm Mark Griffiths from the Wrexham EFC media team.
Thanks very much for watching. Please subscribe as well so you don't miss out on any of our content, and click the bell to get notifications.